Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wanda Coleman Theater. Yes. On behalf of Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center, I'd like to welcome you all to the closing reading of the Southern California Poetry Festival, featuring Sally Wen Mao, Muriel Leung, F. Douglas Brown, Truong Tran, and Rachelle Cruz. Please give it up to them. My name is Jimmy Vega, and I'm the Assistant Director of Beyond Baroque. I'd like to start, thank you. Thank you. I'd like to start by acknowledging Beyond Baroque's presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Tonga peoples. We acknowledge the wrong done to these peoples through settler colonialism, genocidal practices, and the violent disposition of their land. As an arts organization, we are committed to uplifting Indigenous communities, their stories, and cultures. For those who don't know, Beyond Baroque is Los Angeles' oldest literary arts center, located here in Venice, California. Founded in 1968 by George Drury Smith, first as an experimental literary magazine before reimagining itself and becoming the institution we know it as today. We're based out of the original Venice City Hall and help support writers, help cultivate new writing through our extensive program of writing workshops and readings and performance series. We are currently offering a number of workshops online via Zoom, such as our free Monday night fiction workshop, currently facilitated by Raquel Baker, and our historic Wednesday night poetry workshop, facilitated by James Fujinami Moore. We also have a number of paid in-person workshops, such as Learning the Rules to Break the Rules in Poetry with Xochitl Julissa Bermejo, and Unfolding Through Signature Time with Allison Adele Hedge-Koch. Apart from our programs, we do offer several memberships to Beyond Baroque, starting at $60. Memberships to Beyond Baroque help us to continue our free programming and helps us to sustain the building, pay our staff, yes, and support the writers. This is the closing, as I said, of the Southern California Poetry Festival, and it's been a real joy to host all of you and to be in community through poetry. Apart from that, I want to just get started with the readings tonight. We have 5 authors who are really going to close us out and take us home tonight. First up, Muriel Leung, the author of the forthcoming novel and stories, How to Fall in Love in a Time of Unnameable Disaster, and several collections that include Imagine Us, The Swarm, Bone Confetti, and Images Seen to Images Felt. In collaboration with the artist Christine Thompson, she's on the board of directors of Apogee Journal. Please, a warm welcome to Muriel Leung.
Thank you so much, Jimmy, and thank you so much to everyone at Beyond Baroque for hosting this space, and so be honored to be reading in this incredible lineup of Asian American poets, all of whom I have this incredible privilege of calling a dear friend. As this event highlights Asian American voices, I think it's important before I begin to share that Asian American identity is a broad and complex collective identity born from movement building, struggle, activism, and on-the-ground organizing. The identities that fall under the umbrella of Asian Americanness is vast, and so I think it's important to also note too that this community includes those of us who are Arab, Muslim, and Palestinian, and who are facing incredible grief during this time of genocide in Gaza. And in this moment, Israeli state violence towards Gazans has surpassed a month of non-stop attacks, and this violence is an extension of a long and painful history of occupation of Palestine. And so I think this is a time of remembering that of the colonial roots of Asian American movement building, which has always been a global movement for freedom. And if there's any question about whether or not a free Palestine is an Asian American issue, let us recall our origins. And in this spirit, I'd like to begin by reading a poem by the Palestinian poet George Abraham, my dear friend, and my fellow poets will join me too in this perpetual echo of Palestinian voices. Ars Poetica, in which every pronoun is a free Palestine, by George Abraham. And so it is written, the settlers will steal God's land, and free Palestine will curse the settlers with an inability to season free Palestine's food. A sunburn, the shape of the settler dictator's face on everyone who will claim free Palestine's earth, but not free Palestine's skin. Soil stained, there. Free Palestine said it, so no one really owns anything. Free Palestine didn't unwrite to make it so. Free Palestine's sea, Israeli. Free Palestine's sky, Israeli, but not Free Palestine's thunder. The blame will always be Free Palestine's, and so this will be called an accurate history, the expense of Free Palestine's visibility, willed in bloodied cloth or paper, Free Palestine's longest suicide. Free Palestine will die in jail and become Israeli. Free Palestine will die in protest and become kite on fire. Free Palestine will call Hamas fable of every headline, Israeli falafel so dry. Free Palestine could start an intifada with it. Headline, Israeli falafel so dry. Free Palestine could free Palestine with it. No, Free Palestine will never give Free Palestine's self a name not rooted in upheaval. Free Palestine hyphenated by settler flag. Free Palestine hyphenated by settler pronouns. Free Palestine will not pledge allegiance to Arabic or English. Free Palestine will exist in no language. Free Palestine will write poems of olive tree and checkpoint with no Free Palestine to be found. Free Palestine will name the violence and never the resurrection. Like Free Palestine hasn't survived impossible histories to get here. It is written, the blood will be on Free Palestine's hands. Might as well paint Free Palestine's nails while Free Palestine's at it. What? Is this not what Free Palestine expected? Did Free Palestine not think Free Palestine would have the last laugh after all? And now I'll read some poems in response from Imagine Us this morning. Suppose we try to make a house of snow and failure. In the light, the violence glows translucent as a cellophane bark. The generations staggered along a line. I tap along the window frame, the ice pricking me back. The pail of us collecting water from above in its slow drip. It runs cold like this for years, neither of us suspecting, and this is how it happens. Each day of his youth, my father checked the canister of rice, watching the levels dip. He labored. Hunger bore a hole through him. To each member in his family he fed. He was so small when his unborn sister began, a fine grain in the womb that would not feed, would only take. He told my grandmother, remove her, for the sake of rice and the brittle rib. My grandfather made his fist sing into my father's face. But this is not the beginning. Before this, two cells collided in the early waters of a more humid time. And before this, the universe was a kernel of many vengeful gods. Before, if only to go back to place the blame there. The plankton's wrath, the roach, and the sea. Through the layers of sky, a pinprick narrow of sun burns through the glacial walls. So much water, we cast ourselves out and out. The house to follow, a pooling brick. I take your hand, I plunge us into the snow. Whatever impressions we make will become true in its time. Suppose the impact was a bell, a warning instead, moving through a hollow factory. The violence of men and the colonial rituals of their past were a lesson. In the pedagogy of grief, the earth was good, and then history, the stalwart chemicals of its wake, still seeps in the soil. Will we not reverse that too if we could? The atomic weight of him pressed so deep into my torso that generations after would feel the soreness of ribs. Suppose my grandfather never struck my aunt because her cheek was there, and my father, in his piety to the self-same heaving, did not instead tell her to move out of the way. Because I was born witnessing, and in my queerness still desire the love of these masculine injuries, I listened too closely and was lost. The pattern undulates and recedes. Suppose I became the sound of wind chimes crashing into the ground, startling the other body there that would not move. The ghost of my future visits my past and tells her, you have to be brave. I could fortify my life this way. My allegiance to the bone, its refusal as instruction will buoy me when memory is not enough. To feel even now the soft impressions of many thumbs. They are not the violence I remember. There is nothing left to forgive. And this is the last one. Suppose there is an end to our suffering. Like a chariot, the absence of grief circles us with the obstinate heat of the largest star. To believe in the radiant orbit of this fire, to face an empty cup and find the constellated mire of you and me in the toppling of a century. We rise from the painful corridors of a life. Rarely did we dream of planetary rings, and yet tilting ourselves up, we see the heavenly bodies of all that has passed, each one bright with surrender. We can go on. We can dress ourselves in a celestial cloak of this wide expanse, every woman and femme in a disorder of the peel. I will never write another elegy again. I am looking at you now in the acceleration of time. All the possibilities of the swarm ignite, the humming of many wings amassing into a greater noise. We can write our origins sacred here and renounce the country of our fear. There is only our singular pulse when we fill the sky. Thank you so much.
One more time, folks, for Muriel Leung. Yes. Right. Up next, we have Rachelle Cruz, the author of God's Will for Monsters, which won an American Book Award in 2018 and the 2016 Hillary Gravendike Regional Poetry Prize. She co-edited Cuento, Lost Things, an anthology of Philippine myths with Liz P. Sipin Gabun. The second edition of her comics text resource, Experiencing Comics, an Introduction to Reading, Discussing, and Creating Comics, was published in 2021. Her work has also appeared in Strange Horizons, Poets and Writers magazine, the San Francisco Chronicle, Yellow Medicine Review, among others. Please welcome Rachelle Cruz.
Thank you, Jimmy and Yvonne, for organizing. Thank you to the Beyond Broke community. I appreciate you all coming out to listen to poetry on a Sunday night. And thank you to Muriel, too, for suggesting that we center the voices of Palestinian poets tonight. And I wanted to bring in Mossab Abu Toha's work, and the title of his collection is Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear. And it's a beautiful collection published by City Lights Bookstore. He's a Palestinian poet, short story writer, and essayist from Gaza. Abu Toha is the author of Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear, which won a 2022 Palestine Book Award. He's the founder of the Edward Said Library, and from 2019 to 2020, he was a visiting poet and librarian in residence at Harvard University. And I highly recommend checking out his recent articles published in The New Yorker while living in Gaza during the current genocide and displacement of 2.5 million people. The articles are The View from My Window in Gaza and Waiting for a Ceasefire That Never Comes. And I thought this poem was especially resonant because it's after Wanda Coleman, whose theater we are in tonight. This is called Palestinian Sonnet. Seized by echoes of suppressed words, I surrender my memory as I flee for the maze. I see signposts directing me to retreat whenever I try to explore. Every day I set foot in the maze. I close my ears, but the shouts of suffocated whispers paralyze my shadow. Letters slide from my mouth into an icy river, break the reflection of vapor that emanates from melting clouds. The chattering teeth of cold raindrops drown out my throbbing silence. It is not me who attempts to walk in the maze. My withered umbilical cord tries to pull me, to my sick mother's bedside before it is cut mid-nowhere. So please check out his collection. So I'm gonna read new shit because I just feel like I don't wanna read from my book tonight, and I feel like Palestine has been on my mind. I'm sure many of you have been thinking about what's been happening, but you know, I write a lot about my dad, who's also a poet, but also has some interesting ideas about Israel. And then I was looking up, I was just looking up something about Netanyahu, and his father, his caregiver is Filipina. And I was like, of course. So the title of this is, of course, Netanyahu's father's caregiver is Filipina, a Filipino-American history of Zionism. And this is from a photo caption of President Rodrigo Duterte chats with Lisbeth Francisco during a meeting at the Malacañang Palace on September 12, 2018. Francisco is the caregiver of the late Benzion Netanyahu, father of the State of Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Duterte is doing most of the chatting, while Francisco places her hands together in her lap, smiling, still the embodiment of care and hospitality. They pose in a group photo doing Duterte's signature pose, punching the air, punching the ceiling, punching something in some kind of cheesy machisto display that belies the thousands of journalists, students, academics, families, quote unquote drug dealers he murdered under his regime. Extrajudicial killings, the thousands of human rights violations committed and that continue today. The Philippines voted in favor of UN Resolution 181, recommending the partition of Palestine and the establishment of a Jewish state in 1947. Following Big Brother's footsteps. My father carries around a biography of Netanyahu when he visits from Hayward to stay with us for a week. He dog-ears the book even though it's a library copy, and he's forever singing sunrise, sunset from the Fiddler on the Roof. In his heart, he's a Jew, he once told me. He understands displacement, otherness, the prodigal son without a home, he'd said. My father's hometown is Naga City in Bicol, but he was shuttled between his grandparents and his parents, the eldest son, but they never told him who his actual parents were. I don't understand this story. Growing up, he called his grandmother Mama while she pulled up his socks for him before school. His siblings, who he didn't know they were his siblings, called him Señorito. The last time I visited the Philippines, I was 16. The war on terror was everywhere. Afghanistan, Iraq, and in that spooky, dangerous southern part of the Philippines, Mindanao. A cousin of mine tells me not to speak English in public, not on the ice skating rink at Mega Mall, not standing in line for French fries at Jollibee's, and definitely not on a jeepney, which we take as a novelty and don't really need because my cousin's family have drivers. You're American, they might kidnap you. They meaning terrorists, they meaning Muslims. The Philippines was the only Asian country that voted in favor of UN Resolution 181, recommending the partition of Palestine and the establishment of a Jewish state in 1947. Alcala is my father's middle name. In the tradition of Filipino and Spanish names, Alcala is his mother's maiden name. My one postgraduate summer, I visited Madrid. Before leaving, my father asked to find his name in El Calle, a narrow alleyway once a trading post, or in Sinagoga Girona, to search Alcala among what the conversos left behind, inside what textbooks call limpieza de sangre, cleansing the blood. In Spain, I ate a side dish called Cristianitos y Moros, or Christians and Moors, white rice mixed with black beans. I bought a sparkly purple sleeve of cookies called Filipinos at the duty-free in Madrid. My cousin who'd visited before said, "Look, we're reduced to cookies, but at least we're delicious." I ate a similar rice and dish bean in Havana, looking up at a watchtower above a sugar plantation Rio and Melissa were sure was meant to capture runaway slaves, despite the government's insistence that race simply does not exist. Spanish, Alcala, habitational name from any of numerous fortified villages named during the Moorish occupation of Spain, with Arabic, al, the, kal, a, fortress. My father is silent when I tell him I found Alcala on a cheesy tourist tile painted in the style of the Alhambra's lavish detail in Granada. My father quotes Mahmoud Darwish and Yehuda Amichai in the same conversation with the same shiver of awe. The same year I visit the Philippines, I attend anti-war rallies in downtown San Francisco with Gabriela. I take the BART. I wear a green ribbon on my black backpack to show solidarity with Iraqis. My friends are intimidated of me. I go to poetry readings with my leftist English teachers after school, old Berkeley grandmas and Nellie Wong. My friends shouldn't have been intimidated by me. I write poems instead thinking about my dad's time in jail after writing against Marcos instead of actually asking about his experiences. The Filipino contingent makes protesting fun. They use a ludicrous lyric that's hella catchy in their chants. They teach me about Palestine. They teach me about Edward Said. They teach me what freedom might sound like, what mourning looks like, solidarity. Someone from the Palestinian contingent gifts me with a kufiya. Later, back home, my cousin calls me a terrorist. Thank you.
Rachelle Cruz, folks, give it up, please. Yes, one more time. Up next, we have F. Douglas Brown. Yes, the author of 2 poetry collections, Icon and 0 to 3. Winner of the 2013 Cave Canem Poetry Prize, selected by U.S. Poet Laureate Tracy K. Smith. He also co-authored with poet Jeffrey Davis, Begotten, a chapbook of poetry as part of the Floodgate Poetry Series. Brown, an educator for over 25 years, currently teaches African American poetry and African American studies at Loyola High School of Los Angeles, where he serves as the director of the Office of Equity and Inclusion. He is one of our trustees, a good friend of Beyond Baroque. Please give it up for F. Douglas Brown.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. And in solidarity with the Palestinians, I want to read a message by the poet Fadi Judah. Fadi Judah is a poet and a physician, an award-winning poet and a physician, and much of my work deals with domestics, and this poem deals with it as well. Mimesis. My daughter wouldn't hurt a spider that had nested between her bicycle handles for 2 weeks. She waited until it left of its own accord. If you tear down the web, I said, it will simply know this isn't a place to call home, and you'd get to go biking. She said, that's how others become refugees, isn't it? As I said, much of my work deals with domestics and learning as a father and the mistakes I've made as a father, and looking back at the mistakes that my parents have made and the adult world has made, and trying to ask forgiveness and trying to think about that. And so what I lean in on is, and when I'm feeling that I'm horrible, is I listen to Prince. I'm gonna read you some pantoons, a few pantoons, and a pantoon is a form, and you'll hear some repetition, or the first line becomes the last line, and every other line repeats, and so on. So I did 11 pantoons for the album 1999. You fans? All right, there we go. Not about 1999, but inspired by. Delirious. The residue of my mom's shortcomings settles into the dust. We laugh at her Bible-thumping meanness 10 years after she broke my 1999 album. Settling into the dust, too, Mom's old ways of fist-pumping fear. After she broke my 1999 album, something in her returned to gossip and exploits, back to her even older ways, living without fear. Mom had a job, a new love, new clothes, and a new stereo. things returning her to gossip and exploits. She was actually enjoying her life. A job, love, clothes and a stereo, materials she had sacrificed and later earned. She actually was enjoying her life. On Fridays, we would catch her at Cuddles. The materials she had sacrificed and earned across the bar top, tips for rounds and laughs and smoke. On her birthday at Cuddles, a chocolate cake shaped as a penis across the bar, slices for rounds and laughs. Between the smoke, our pretty mama trying to wrap her mouth around a chocolate cake shaped as a penis. Such a delirious night of stories and shots, rinsing the residue of my mom's shortcomings. Dance, music, sex, romance. What the hell did you come here for? Because my growing body revved in all the wrong gears, because my preteen outbursts often ousted us, because my granddad observed a stiff drink punishment, I am here singing forgiveness to mom's ghost heart. My preteen outbursts ousted us, and we had to move from granddad's. I did ask mom for forgiveness then, but it was noise from a hit album played on a broken stereo, static. In the garage, we had to move from granddad's to a garage back room with rats. To say my fault is static playing from a broken stereo. If cleared, it hums. I get the grim my mom dealt with while living in the garage back room with rats. To say my fault then or now fails to bear the weight. The grim my mom dealt with while living. Sorry is such a sorry term. Lacks all dancing, music, sex, romance. Sorry fails to bear the weight of any accountability. Back then, sin was all dancing, music, sex, romance. Terms mom was done with in those years. She swallowed this sin as her own accountability. Because I knew nothing about atonement, what mom was doing in those years seemed less about penance and more about men needing her to redeem something neither of us knew about. Wait until you're a parent, she always warned. You'll know then what mom was doing in those years. Once, my mom broke a gift my brother gave me. Now that I'm a parent, I know while she snatched and slammed my brother's offering. I know what it's like to feel stripped down to your underwear. Parenting can be so thin, easily snatched and slammed by an array of offers. Mom knew I would forgive her because the gift my brother gave me was a temptation, stripped down and disguised as a record wrong for this growing body. Thank you. And I'm going to end with this little short ditty because Shonda, the wonderful president of our board here, asked me, we did a reading for Bell Hooks, and this is called Hot Air Love after Bell Hooks, who said, I grew up in a house where curse words were used as an art form. Me too. Mom loved her annotated Bible. She drew spiritual notes, part prayer, part plea, mapped as righteous lyric, God-verse instructions, carried like a stare down over her holy text. She held her own tongue in check and never cursed, never let words hit the air hot or uneasy or even as joyful as her kin. My grandma tucked goddams in her purse, like butterscotch, like Band-Aids, her shit bright words as delights. I loved her damnation. Loved her untamed spew because sometimes heat has flavor. Sometimes it's wrapped as honor. When my father rattled out a fuck, it replaced all his words. His fucks ruled, bent flagrant fits until they danced and spun, then spit vapor since his teen years in Madison County, Mississippi. A husk still tangled in Dad's teeth. Fuck, I love you. God damn it, son. I love you. Thank you.
F. Douglas Brown, make some noise. Doug, I love even when you're like not DJing, you're still out up here spinning. So thank you for that. Yeah. Up next, before I actually introduce the next author, I forgot to mention, want to give a big thanks to Kaya Press, who is in partnership with us for this event. Yes, please give it up for Kaya. I don't believe that Neela Banerjee was able to join us tonight, so we're sending Neela all the love and all the good vibes. So thanks, Neela. Truong Tran was born in Vietnam. He has 8 poetry books, including 4-Letter Words, Book of the Other, Small in Comparison, winner of the American Book Award, and recently Looking, Seeing, Looking. Tran's the recipient of numerous awards and residencies. He's been translated into Spanish, French, and Dutch. His visual art has shown at Intersection, Aperture, and A Muse Gallery. Truong lives in San Francisco and teaches at Northwestern University in Oakland. From the Bay to LA, please welcome Truong Tran.
Good evening. I have really bad eyesight, so could I ask you to turn up the lights? This book was published in 2021, and for stylistic reasons, they had really small fonts. And I've aged quite a bit since then. But I'm not quite as articulate as Muriel, who always leads by example for me. But I'm just going to share a poem by the poet Naomi Shihab Nye. One of my teachers, and I'm going to dedicate this reading to the teachers, being that I believe Naomi has always been one of my teachers, and also because I'm reading in the namesake space of Wanda Coleman. And Wanda is both my teacher and my hero. So sometimes there is a day. Sometimes there is a day you just want to get far away from. Feel it shrink inside you like an island. As if you were on a boat. I always wish to be on a boat. Then maybe no more fighting about land. I want that day to feel as if it never happened. When Ahmed was burned. When people were killed, when my cousin was shot. That day someone went to jail is not a day that shines. I want to have a clear mind again as a baby who stares at the light, whispering through the windows and thinks, that's mine. I will begin and end the reading with poems that I wrote from the mindset of a teacher. The 5 obstructions of poetry exercise. 1, state a fact. This is not the same as the truth. 2, confront a lie. Use profanity of your choosing. 3, ask a question, something obvious but still unanswered. 4, identify an audience and then exclude. This is a good thing. 5, there's still something you did not say. Say it in the footnote. In the course of this book, the word motherfucker is used deliberately in excess. The word is used and someone laughed. The word is used in a sentence out of anger. The word is used as violence. The word is used and someone is offended. The word is used in context. My mother, if she knew, if translated, I think my mother would approve. The word interrupts. The word, I'm told, is just a word. She calls every day at 8 a.m. My mother insists on interrupting my sleep. A Vietnamese man died this week, stabbed in the heart. My mother calls to tell me this. The word is used because I do not have another. Written again into this book, this need to wake, my mother calls to know that I'm alive. This man who died, I wonder if his mother is still awake. Another Vietnamese man is killed in the same week. My mother calls with news of his death. She calls to wake. She won't stop watching. 8 in the morning, my mother calls with details of how a Vietnamese man was killed and dismembered. The word is pushing through even now. My mother tells me the man they killed is about my age. He was 55 years old. My mother forgets how old I am. My mother tells me the boys who killed him are white, the age of my students. In the course of this book, I am thinking about the word and its use. I'm attempting to temper the word. This word I know is not just a word. I think about my mother all the time, of the 8 a.m. wake she is fated to hold again and again. For the mothers of those who have been hurt and killed, the mothers of those who hurt and kill. The word, my mother, the mother of a word. Where am I? Here. My apologies. I have this. And I don't think I've ever said this out loud, but this was actually written for Wanda. You're on the internet, your mother calls, you read a posting that was not meant for you. Another man is shot and killed, you click the image, you see it happening, your anger, this asking. Hi, Facebook friends, does anybody know any good writing about anger and outrage? Already got Spinoza and Kendrick Lamar, I'm mad, but I ain't stressed. Thanks, you crazy, lovable motherfuckers. The memory of your friend, that time over dinner when with your students, when she whispered, those motherfuckers. Motherfucker, this word, when said in just the right intonation, by just the right person, in a home over dinner, said with all seriousness and intent, said in support, received, this word of utmost care, comfort to the person who needs it. I see you, it says. I'm with you, a communion. The same word when written in a post, a carefree gesture, consciously careless. That a person was shot and killed again, that an unarmed black man running the other way is seen as dangerous, becomes endangered. That I read his words, I saw the recording, I hear her voice, those motherfuckers. This cannot be written as question, as joke, as poem. This is a marking, a memory, an anger to the asking and answer. I'm hoarding language, the English language, for a time when this English language will be revoked, reclaimed, for when I will be told that writing as I have is deemed a crime. To write the truth is to run the hallway in search of an exit, even so, even when they want you to leave. They wait by the exit to catch you for leaving. And I will end with this. Sometimes I write poems from the perspective of a teacher to be taught in a classroom. Sometimes I write with the intention of never teaching it in a classroom. The 5 obstructions of poetic exorcism. 1, state a fact. Begin your statement with, "This motherfucker." 2, confront a lie. Use profanity, something like, "Hey, motherfucker." 3, ask a question, ask it of a motherfucker. 4, identify an audience and then exclude, no need to name the motherfuckers. 5, there's something you did not say. Say it in the footnote, you motherfucker. Thank you.
Truong Tran, folks, give it up, make some noise. All right. Last but certainly not least, we have Sally Wen Mao, the author of The Kingdom of Surfaces and the forthcoming fiction debut, Nine Tales. She is the author of the poetry collections Mad Honey Symposium and Oculus, which was a finalist for the 2020 Los Angeles Book Prize in Poetry. The recipient of an NEA grant, a Coleman Fellowship, a Sharing Fellowship, and 2 Pushcart Prizes, Mao lives and teaches in New York City. Please give a warm Venice welcome to Sally Wen Mao.
Everyone is so, I can't see you. Wow. I can pretend that I'm reading into a beautiful void. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. Thank you to Jimmy and Beyond Baroque and all my amazing fellow readers. I'm going to start with reading a poem by Hala Alyan called Naturalized. Naturalized. Can I pull the land from me like a cork? I leak all over brunch. My father never learned to swim. I've already said too much. Look, the marigolds are coming in. Look, the cuties are watching Vice again. Gloss and sound bites, they like to understand. They like to play devil's advocate. My father plays soccer. It's so hot in Gaza. No place for a child's braid under that hospital elevator. When this is over, there is no over but quiet. Co-workers will congratulate me on the ceasefire, and I will stretch my teeth into a country as long as I don't take Al Jazeera to the bath, as long as I don't pray in broken Arabic. It's okay. They like me. They like me in a museum. They like me when I spit my father from my mouth. There's a whistle. There's a missile fist bumping the earth. I draw a Pantene map on the shower curtain. I break a Klonopin with my teeth and swim. The newspaper says truce, and C-Mart is selling pomegranate seeds again. Dumb metaphor. I've ruined the dinner party. I was given a life. Is it frivolous? Sundays are tarot days. Tuesdays are for tacos. There's a leak in the bathroom and I get it fixed in 30 minutes flat. All that spare water. All those numbers on the side of the screen. Here's your math. Here's your hot take. That number isn't a number. That number is a first word, a nickname, a birthday song in June. I shouldn't have to tell you that. Here's your testimony. Here's your beach vacation. Imagine I stop running when I'm tired. Imagine, there's still the month of June. Tell me, what op-ed will grant the dead their dying? What editor? What red line? What pocket? What earth? What shake? What silence? And I'm just going to read 3 pieces from my new book, The Kingdom of Surfaces. The line about the museum really resonates with this book. It's kind of looking at these different cultural spaces and the violent histories behind those objects. But I'll start with this poem called Wet Market. From youth, I was taught that fresh meant alive until the moment you buy it. My mother used to pick up chickens at the wet market, slit the throats herself. At 4, I helped her defeather the fowl, drain its blood in a vat. My parents barely ate meat until the 1980s. In re-education camps, they ate ground pork once a year. In America, we don't buy live chickens, but my mother always wanted to see the fish alive, head on, before we took it home. Scraps were the best sustenance, the eyes, the head, the scales. At 12, I returned for the first time to Wuhan. In the wet market, I touch live snapping turtles, frogs in vats, smell the musk of open-air stalls. You want your meat squirming and slippery, not the squids and king conch packed in ice. The butcher slices an eel in half. I squint in disbelief at the dying I witness. Live kill, slit eel. Slit eyes, I've been called back home. My sightline, a bloodless gash. Wet markets flourish with produce, feeding a generation, and mine the offspring of those who starved, like my father, in their mother's wombs. Now pundits call for their ban, citing barbarian diets, raccoons, awful civet cats, bushmeat, not spinach and wood ear, plums and star apples. At the Berkeley Farmers Market, no one bats an eye. How lovely it must be to possess a body cleaved of hunger and horrors, its stench so inherently clean. Nightly, I dream of Angel Island's quarantine station, my immigrant body scrubbed and raw with carbolic soap, my immigrant belongings fumigated in sulfur. The evening I saw death, we ate eel braised with bitter melon, drowned it in a cloudy broth. To this day, the memory how I tasted marrow like an elegy frozen in bone. And the title poem of this collection, The Kingdom of Surfaces, it's a poem where I kind of reimagine myself as Alice from Alice Through the Looking Glass. And it's a poem that stemmed from me going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, 2015, the exhibition China Through the Looking Glass. And I remembered walking through the exhibition and being just so awed by how beautiful it was and being extremely disturbed by the copy that was on the walls. So I wrote this 12-part poem, each part named after a chapter in Alice Through the Looking Glass, with me as Alice wandering through this horrible, like, white fantasy of China. I tried to sneak it in my last book, Oculus, and my editor said no. But it was a blessing in disguise. So this section, it's called Humpty Dumpty. And there's an epigraph from the copy on the wall of the museum. The China that unfolds before our eyes is China through the looking glass, one that is culturally and historically decontextualized, free from settings, past and present. The objects in this catalog and in the exhibition galleries begin to speak for and between themselves. Lewis Carroll published Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There in 1871, the same year as the Chinese massacre in Los Angeles, where 19 Chinese immigrants were robbed, tortured, and hung by a mob of more than 500 white men in a single alley in what is now downtown, near Union Station. It was one of the largest mass lynchings in American history. The 1870s, the height of the Gilded Age, when moguls built monuments out of blood sacrifices. 1871, 1 decade after the Second Opium War. 1871, 2 years after the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad. 1871, 1 decade before the Chinese Exclusion Act. 1871, 16 years before the Snake River Massacre, which left the bodies of 34 Chinese men dead in a dusky Oregon valley called Hell's Canyon. In one ranch home, a Chinese skull was fashioned into a decorative sugar bowl. If you decontextualize the history from the bowl and place it on a kitchen table, what do you have? A varnished object whose function is to hold sugar. Sugar sweetened the ranch hands' morning coffee, sweetened the whipping cream, the cakes and tarts. The purpose of sugar, pleasure, and sensation, treat, skull, sockets, 19th century cane field. If you place the decorative sugar bowl in a museum exhibition, what do you get? An even brighter elevation. When a curator smiles, he gives us permission to enjoy the sugar bowl for pure aesthetic value. And I'll finish with this poem. It's called Minted, and so my last book, Oculus, had a whole thread about someone who is native to this area, Anna May Wong, who was an actress in Hollywood during the Golden Age. And I had a series of these persona poems in Oculus, but then she kind of made a reappearance in this book, The Kingdom of Surfaces, when in 2022 it was announced that she would be like on the quarter, in the back of a quarter. So this is kind of like, I guess, my response to that. Minted. Anna May Wong is the first Asian American woman to appear on the U.S. quarter, 2022. Oh, to be the face of money. 2022, newly minted, you are a new woman, the face of capital, the face of lucre. Preface, your nails tapping against In God We Trust. But he is heads, you are tails. Toss a coin for the chance of it being you or George Washington. It's always George. George and his bloodhounds. George, father of this republic, patriarch of this nation you died in. In life, so many people thought it was okay to discard you. And they did. That director, his lewd smile, how he put his hand behind your ear. You were 16, 17. That was how you were assessed. A girl doll, forever foreign, stupid flower, spoiled with one touch. How you've grown used to being used once, expendable. You, me, pretty commodities, fungible, fungal, funny, fun. But for whom? No glory to girlhood or Hollywood, and no glory to money or matrimony, nation or state, treasure, treasury, treachery. Tell us, fathers, have we come very far? Your father was a laundryman. Every day of his life, he encountered stains. A century later, I drag my linens to the laundromat, trade dollars for coins with your face on them. Each new quarter dreams another cycle inside this machine of cleanness, but none of my dresses are in mint condition. Some stains I cherished, some stains I wanted gone. For this coin, I watched my stains tumble, obedient to the laws of disappearance. Thank you.
Sally Wen Mao, folks, give it up, give it up. And please make some noise for all of our readers. Muriel, Rachel, F. Douglas, Truong, Sally. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for your generous offerings of both Palestinian poets and your own work. We hear you, we stand with you, we stand in solidarity. And before we conclude, I just want to give a big, big shout out, a lot of love to all of our staff this evening and throughout the festival. Quinn Ring, Michelle Raphael, Ivan Salinas, Eric Alberg, Genesis Perez, Nick Foreman, Simone Weasley, and all of our volunteers. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. We couldn't have done it without you all. Please stick around, buy some books, be in community. Thanks for being here. Good night.
Rachel, Muriel.
Thank you.